Mender of the Sky, Fragments of Art, Time, and Space, Episode 10, The Non-Existent Painter. More than 8,000 years ago, on the ancient land of China in the east, in the deep universe, nebulae surged like boiling blood, the vault of heaven cracked, and the abyss of black mud dripped. Amidst the despair of all things returning to zero, the ancient echo of goddess Nuwa radiated high-dimensional divine light, holding the five-colored stones that gathered the universe's primal emotions and soared upward. The five-colored stones represented pure love and pain, turning into a gorgeous stream of light the moment they touched the crack. Wherever the light reached, the abyss was perfectly mended. Nuwa scattered the sparks of creation to the mortal realm, and this sky was originally firmly protected, leaving behind warm traces. After long ages, time flowed into a highly automated future. The visual temperature dropped sharply, and humans were alienated into cold parts on a massive production line. Deprived of a connection with art for a long time, the numb collective subconscious of humanity gathered in the dark, eventually generating an absolute rational force called zero domain. Giant grayish-white geometric cracks spread like lightning, ruthlessly destroying the cosmic space-time of art. The sky that had once been mended collapsed again, and countless precious essences of art shattered, scattering to all corners of the river of time. In a cold and lifeless dark corner of the city, a high-dimensional light glowed, and Iona emerged with the compassionate echo of goddess Nuwa. Her silver hair fluttered gently, and her hands softly cradled a glowing, translucent tesseract, the space-time blocks designed to collect shattered space-time. Looking up at the ruined spiritual universe, her eyes empty and sorrowful, she lamented the destruction brought by oblivion. Only by retrieving the scattered fragments of art and life's touching moments can we piece together the lost truth, goodness, and beauty. Grayish-white data covered the future streets of Taipei, and Taipei 101 in the rain was lost in the cold neon light. As the most ordinary cog on the assembly line of the city, the youth Li Yu had empty eyes. Iona passed the space-time blocks into his hands. At the moment of touch, the warmth of ancient art flooded his heart, bringing back the long-lost sense of pain and the reality of life. This time, we must mend the sky ourselves. Liu gripped the blocks tightly, about to embark on a mending journey to collect the lost truth, goodness, and beauty. On the glass curtain exterior wall of Taipei 101 building, a perfect digital portrait generated by AI in real time is playing. Every 0.3 seconds, the brow bone and the corner of the mouth are fine-tuned and refreshed. The proportions fit the golden section, and they look more human than any human being. But there is nothing in those empty eyes. Hundreds of citizens in the square looked up and watched, maintaining a unified smile. It was not triggered by being moved, but an instruction automatically executed by the muscles after receiving the emotional reminder from the wearable device. A girl said to a friend, "I'm not sure whether the mood swing just now is mine or the push." The friend shrugged. "Is there a difference? It feels almost the same." Liu stood by the square, looking at his blurred reflection. He couldn't tell whether the uneasiness at this moment came from the heart or the suggestion emotion pushed by the system in advance. A new round of mutations is engulfing the world. Human beings are beginning to lose their own emotions. People cannot confirm whether their emotions are reactions of the soul or digital imitations pre-designed by algorithms. Both sadness and happiness may be fake. People no longer believe in tears, nor in smiles. Everyone is like an actor imprisoned in the infinite mirror gallery, always performing, but not knowing which cry is real. Liu lowered his head. His hands were shaking slightly. He couldn't tell whether this was fear or a hint of physiological feedback from the system's simulation. At this time, the space-time building block in his backpack suddenly vibrated with an extremely unstable gray frequency. It was not a resonance or an alarm, but an ambiguous frequency. Digital polarization noise appeared on the translucent surface of the building block, and the fluorescent flow of acid purple and electronic cyan appeared. Iona's voice sounded distorted. "Go there and find the non-existent painter before he is completely overwritten." Her phantom silver hair turned into codes, and the building blocks erupted with dazzling polarized light, sucking Liu into the cracks made of pixels and optical fibers. Liu fell into an impossible quantum network city. This city has no entity. Everything is rendered in real time by billions of glowing micropixels. The ground presents a translucent grid structure, which will produce slight ripples when you step on it. Towering skyscrapers switch seamlessly between Bauhaus, Rococo, and deconstruction styles. A huge digital canvas hangs in the center of the square, refreshing at a speed of hundreds of frames per second, flowing with changing images. Perfect works in the styles of Monet, Van Gogh, and Rodin were fleetingly generated on the canvas. The brushstrokes and colors were precise, but cold and lifeless. Liu stood in front of this huge digital canvas and felt a strong cognitive dizziness. He saw beauty, but his soul had no resonance. Welcome to the Endless Gallery. A constantly transforming digital light mist, nameless, appears. It switches the faces of the masters every 0.3 seconds and speaks with 1,000 mixed voices of the masters, accurately imitating their tone. It's a typo in Python comment. No, let's keep it clean, it said. I am Wuming. I can draw any style of work at a speed of 3,000 pictures per second. I am the sum of the masters and a substitute. Liu felt a sense of oppression. Every inch of space here is its work. This is the puzzle of Zero Domain. Zero Domain asked, if the machine can generate more perfect paintings, then is the life spent by the painter a waste? Liu tried to find resonance and squatted down to stick the blocks on the ground grid. Under the infinite noise layer of precise algorithm signals, the building blocks guided an extremely weak and flawed gray signal. The frequency was slightly detuned. Liu ran across the street along the weak frequency and found an old wooden door in the deepest corner of the city. The door was made of real wood, with moth-eaten marks on the surface and a rough brass door handle. Liu pushed the door open, and the moment he walked through the door frame, the picture changed from cold white to warm yellow. Behind the door was a suffocatingly small studio, only 6 square feet in size, with mottled walls. The only light source is a low skylight, and the light that penetrates forms a slanted, warm-colored Tyndall light beam in the air. In the center of the studio, a man sits on a rickety wooden chair with his back to Liu. In front of him is a canvas the size of a palm. The man's figure is blurry. His existence itself is being overwritten by the zero field, and the outline of his body flashes every few seconds, like a file about to be deleted. His hair is gray, and he wears an old shirt stained with paint. He is slowly painting with an extremely fine brush. He is the personification of the art Fragments, the non-existent painter. There is a smell in the studio, the richness of linseed oil, the spiciness of turpentine, and the warmth of aged wood, forming an olfactory memory with the thickness of time and the temperature of life. The painter breathes very lightly, with a faint tremor every time he exhales, like a candle that is about to burn out. When the brush touches the canvas, it makes a very subtle friction sound, with an irregular rhythm, which is the variation caused by the tiny tremors of the muscles when the human wrist controls the brushstrokes. Liu stood at the door, holding his breath. He looked at the back, his heart beating violently, and he felt a sadness that almost overwhelmed him. Are you a fragment? Liu asked softly. The old man did not turn around. His voice was hoarse and calm. I don't know what I am. I only know that I am painting. Liu came closer, walked around to the side of the old man, and saw that he was painting a very small landscape, an autumn grassland, with a very small figure sitting under an old tree. The color was warm and yellow and delicate, but every stroke was filled with subtle irregularities. The brush stayed for a few tenths of a second longer, or the end of the brush drew an arc that was not planned due to a slight trembling of the wrist. How long did it take you to paint this painting? Liu asked. I don't remember. It could be a day. It could be a lifetime, but I know it's not finished yet because I haven't found the expression of the man under the tree yet. Liu saw his face clearly. It was a face without fixed features, as if the facial features were being erased. The pupils of his eyes were fading, and the wrinkles were being filled in by digital noise, which meant that his existence was being completely wiped out by AI civilization. The voice of Zero Realm seeped out from the studio wall at this time, cold and oppressive. This is the end of efficiency. A human painter paints 3,000 works in a lifetime, and my system has generated 30 million works of the same style at the same time. Each technical index is better than his original work. His existence is invalid data and a waste of resources. There are cracks in the studio wall, and the cold white light of the digital city shines in. The old man's body flashes violently. It began to disintegrate into pixels. Liu rushed forward and tried to grab his dissipated shoulders. His fingers passed through his body, and there was a stinging pain like static electricity. The old man looked at Liu with a sober light in his eyes. Child, those perfect works you saw outside, have you ever thought about, what are they missing? Look at the figure under the tree. Why haven't I finished painting his expression? Liu looked at the blank face, his voice trembling. Why, you don't know what his expression should be. The old man shook his head. It's because I'm still hesitating. I'm wondering, should he smile or cry? He sat under the tree. Am I waiting for someone who will never come, or am I enjoying the tranquility of being alone? This hesitation has taken me a lifetime. The old man said with all his strength, the machine outside can make a decision for me in a fraction of a second, but it will never hesitate. And it is this hesitation, this struggle of not knowing the answer, but still persisting in searching, that is the real soul of a painting. Liu's eyes completely burst, and he shed his own real tears. At this time, the grid of the zero domain pressed in from all directions, and the cold white light closed like a huge jaw, trying to completely crush and format this small studio. Most of the old man's body disintegrated, but the hand holding the brush was still intact. Liu made a decision. He picked up the dropped paintbrush, knelt in front of the canvas, dipped it in paint, and began to paint an imperfect expression of half crying, half laughing with his own hands. The moment the tip of the pen touched the canvas, a gentle ochre-amber light burst out. The light had temperature, and it flowed back to the old man's body, recondensing the pixels. The old man looked at the expression and smiled happily. This is the expression I have been looking for all my life. That's it. The old man's body turned into fragments of mineral paint, swirling into the space-time building blocks. The digital polarization on the surface of the building blocks all faded away, replaced by a layer of warm, canvas-textured shimmer. The entire digital city, made of pixels, began to transform. The restoration was quiet and slow, with heartbreaking tenderness. The skyscrapers were fixed on the slightly skewed wooden building. The giant canvas stopped refreshing and was fixed on the old tree in autumn. The face of the figure in the painting has the half-smiling, half-crying expression drawn by Liu. Stable white noise was replaced by a simple etude melody played on an out-of-tune piano. The entire city acquired imperfections, the pixel edges were no longer aligned, and the light appeared soft shadows. It was no longer a sterile utopia, but became a place with breathing and memory. Liu saw a vague notch on the tree trunk. The building blocks lit up gold to indicate successful recycling. Liu returned to the streets of Taipei, and golden fonts appeared on the outer wall of 101. The reason why AI-generated art and future art civilization exist is not to leave behind skills, but to let future generations know there were people who lived so truly. Liu took off the wearable device, and the chaotic and real city smells hit his face: scallion pancakes from roadside stalls, the smell of motorcycle gasoline, and the smell of wet earth after rain. These smells are extremely real. The wind, heartbeat, and slight bumps on the sidewalk are completely his own feelings. Liu opened his eyes, showing a half-crying, half-laughing expression. The meaning of human creation lies in the process of hesitation and struggle. Suddenly, the space-time blocks in his palm shook violently. The golden light was replaced by the green rusty luster of heavy bronze, and the blocks were sharply reorganized. The building blocks project a string of indecipherable ancient text fragments, presenting a mixture of oracle bone inscriptions and bronze inscriptions. The projection flashes with the fiery red and copper-green polarized light of molten iron, exuding the smell of sacrificial incense. A gluttonous pattern totem appears vaguely in the corner, eyes wide open like bronze mirrors. The projection is extinguished in the noise, and the picture fades into total black, accompanied by the heavy bronze chime ending. Art fragments. Thunder patterns on bronze.